The Montana wind howled like a banshee through Jack Harlan's nightmares that bitter December night in 1892. In his dreams, he was young again, 30 years old, watching Emily adjust her lace wedding veil, her green eyes sparkling like emeralds under the prairie sun as she leaned in for their first marital kiss. Her laughter was like wildflowers blooming after rain, pure, untamed, and full of promise. Then the pounding started, urgent and real, yanking Jack from sleep. His chest tightened like a vice as the dream evaporated, leaving him in the stark chill of his isolated ranch house. Who the hell would be out here at this hour, in the dead of winter? He shrugged on his heavy flannel shirt, lit the kerosene lantern with trembling hands, and shuffled to the door. It swung open with a groan, and lamplight flooded the porch. There she stood, a woman with Emily's face, Emily's eyes, Emily's slender frame shivering in the snow. But Emily had been gone for 7 years, claimed by a fever that swept through their valley like a thief in the night. Jack's grip on the lantern faltered. Was this madness? Or had the endless solitude finally conjured a phantom from his grief? Emily, the name slipped out like a ghost from his lips. The woman clutched a worn canvas bag to her chest, her once elegant wool coat torn and muddied. Up close, he saw the bruises blooming like dark roses on her pale skin, the split lip crusted with blood. "I'm not Emily," she whispered, her voice a melodic echo that twisted his gut. "I'm her twin sister, Laura. Please, you have to help me." Twin sister? The revelation hit Jack like a stampede. Emily had spoken of Laura in hushed tones during their early marriage, a sibling separated by a messy family split back in Boston. Laura had stayed east with her father, while Emily ventured west with her mother to start fresh. But seeing her now, framed in the doorway like a resurrection, it was surreal. Her scent hit him next. Faint lavender soap mingled with the metallic tang of fear. "Who did this to you?" Jack demanded, his voice rough from disuse. Laura flinched at his tone, but her eyes, those piercing green eyes, held steady. "My husband, Victor Hale. He's a monster, and he's hunting me down." The wind picked up, carrying the threat of a blizzard. Jack's upbringing on the frontier had drilled one truth into him: protect the vulnerable, or you're no better than the wolves. "Get inside," he growled, stepping aside. As she crossed the threshold, Jack couldn't shake the dread that he'd just invited more than a storm into his life. Over the next few days, Laura, thawed by the wood stove, wrapped in Emily's faded patchwork quilt, the one his wife had sewn during their first harsh winter together. Her bruises darkened to angry shades of violet and mustard, but her spirit emerged unbroken. She sipped black coffee from a tin mug, her hands still quivering. "Victor controls half the shipping empires in New York," she explained, staring into the flames. "Railroads, docks, warehouses, enough wealth to buy silence from anyone." Jack leaned against the mantel, his arms crossed. "How'd a girl like you end up with a bastard like that?" Laura's bitter chuckle held no joy. "Father arranged it when I was 24. Said it was for my own good. Victor was all charm at first dinners in fancy hotels, diamond necklaces, vows of eternal love. I was naive, dazzled by the glamour." She rolled up her sleeve, revealing a map of faded scars like cigarette burns. It started subtly, a backhand for burning supper, a shove for laughing too loud at his parties. Then the isolation-locked rooms, spies among the staff, threats to ruin my friends if they interfered. Jack's fists clenched. He'd seen enough ugliness during his days as a Union scout in the Civil War, men who hid their cruelty behind power. "What pushed you to run?" Laura's voice dropped to a hush. "He murdered our housekeeper. She tried smuggling me a note from an old acquaintance. He staged it as a fall down the stairs, but I witnessed him shove her. When I confronted him, she touched the finger marks on her neck, fresh as yesterday's rage. He strangled me until I blacked out. That night, I slipped opium into his brandy, grabbed what cash I could, and boarded a train west. Emily's old letters guided me. Here she described your ranch near Bozeman as a haven, a place where freedom still meant something. Outside, Jack's horses nickered in the barn, oblivious to the human storm brewing. Laura wasn't Emily. Where his wife had been soft and nurturing like spring grass, Laura carried a fighter's edge, honed by years of survival. "He'll track you," Jack said flatly. It wasn't a question. "Yes," she admitted, meeting his gaze. "Victor doesn't lose what's his." Jack straightened. "Then he won't find you easy pickings. Stay as long as you need." For the first time, tears carved paths down her cheeks. "Emily always said you were a good man." As January bled into February, Laura wove herself into the rhythm of ranch life. While Jack wrangled his herd through thawing pastures, she turned his dusty cabin into a home. Biscuits that didn't taste like rocks, mended fences and shirts with precise stitches, even humming old folk tunes as she scrubbed floors. But evenings tested Jack's resolve. She'd curl up in Emily's rocker, firelight dancing on her chestnut hair, reading aloud from tattered novels she'd packed from the city. Her voice, so achingly similar yet laced with a sultry confidence, painted worlds beyond the mountains. One stormy night in late February, as she stretched for a book on the high shelf, her blouse pulled taut, revealing the graceful curve of her figure. Jack's breath caught a raw, unwelcome hunger stirring in his veins. This was wrong. She was his late wife's blood, vulnerable and scarred. "Emily loved reading by the fire," he muttered, averting his eyes. Laura turned, her gaze electric. "She wrote about your strength, how your hands could gentle a wild colt." She stepped closer, tracing a war scar on his knuckles. "They're beautiful to me." He should have stopped her, invoked duty or decency. But when her fingers brushed his skin, the loneliness of 7 years cracked open. "Laura," he warned, his voice hoarse. "We can't." Yet his hand captured hers, thumb circling her wrist where her pulse raced. "Just let me feel alive again," she pleaded, her lips inches from his. Their kiss ignited like dry tinder fires, demanding, nothing like Emily's tender embraces. Laura's nails raked his back as they tumbled to the rag rug before the hearth, her body arching in the glow, reclaiming passion from pain. Afterward, as she nestled against him, Jack stared at the rafters, guilt warring with a reborn spark in his soul. What had he unleashed? Word traveled fast in frontier towns, and trouble arrived with Victor Hale. He swept into Bozeman like a plague, silver-tongued and sharp-suited, backed by a posse of mercenaries and pockets deep enough to sway loyalties. At the saloon, he spun his tale to Marshall Jenkins over imported scotch. "My darling wife suffered a breakdown after her mother's passing. Delusions, violent fits, doctors say she's a danger." He flashed forged papers, medical affidavits, a judge's order for her care in an asylum. All lies, but greased with bribes that could choke a mule. Marshall Jenkins, a man whose badge bent to the highest bidder, pocketed the gold. "We'll fetch her, Mr. Hale. Family first." Meanwhile, Jack's neighbor, old Ben Riley, rode hell-bent to the ranch at dawn. "Fancy Easterner in town, asking after you. Description fits that gal you've got holed up. Claims she's loco, but got the marshal eating from his hand." Laura overheard, her face paling to ash. "He's here. God, he'll drag me back to that hell." Jack pulled her close. "Not while I breathe." Ben eyed them shrewdly. "She doesn't look crazy to me just beat down." Jack nodded. "Her husband's the devil himself. We're standing our ground." Laura squared her shoulders. "If it comes to it, I'll fight too. Death before going back." They came at high noon, sun glinting off badges and barrels. Victor led the charge on a rented stallion, Marshall Jenkins and 5 gun hands flanking him. Jack waited on the porch, his old Army repeater rifle loaded and ready. "Jack Harlan," Victor called, his voice smooth as oil. "You got my property. Hand her over peacefully." "Ain't no property here," Jack shot back, hand steady on the trigger. just a woman escaping a tyrant. Victor's grin was predatory. She's ill, Mr. Harlan. Papers prove it. We're taking her for treatment. The marshal shifted uneasily. Don't make this hard, Jack. Law's on his side. Jack's laugh was cold. Law, or the fat envelope in your pocket. Tension crackled like lightning. One gun hand twitched toward his holster. Jack's rifle barked, kicking dirt at the man's boots. The horse bucked, chaos erupting. Next one's through your heart. Victor snarled, mask slipping. You rustic fool. I own Senators, I'll bury you. But Laura burst from the house, Jack's spare revolver cocked. Hello, Victor. Still peddling lies. Her voice rang clear. Gentlemen, meet my husband, the man who beats women and murders maids. She produced a leather-bound diary, pages crammed with dates, witnesses' bribes. Every slap, every threat, every payoff, including the $300 to that crooked judge for your fake papers. The gun hands murmured, doubt creeping in. Victor's face twisted in rage. You ungrateful whore. The slur hung heavy. Frontier men didn't tolerate such filth. Even the marshal winced. Laura leveled her gun. Try taking me now. This is Montagnard dispense our own justice. Victor's eyes darted, support crumbling. The hired guns backed off. The marshal muttered excuses. Defeated, Victor wheeled his horse. This ain't finished. But Laura's retort sealed it. It is for me. Crawl back east and rot. Spring bloomed across the valleys, washing away winter scars. Laura watched Jack tame a spirited Mustang in the corral, his patient touch mirroring how he'd healed her. Victor's empire crumbled under federal scrutiny as diary-fueled scandals toppled allies, landing him in irons for fraud and worse. Laura was free, truly. One evening, as they sat on the porch watching the sunset paint the Rockies in fire, Jack took her hand. Emily would want physically brought light back to this place. Laura smiled, slipping Emily's old ring onto her finger. And you show me love isn't a cage. They married that summer, forging a life of quiet strength amid the wilds. What do you think? Should Laura have shot Victor on the spot, or was exposing him a smarter play? Share your take in the comments below. Stand your ground, and let me know your views on justice, second chances, and fighting back against abusers.